Three, two, one.
Hello there. I'm Rachel Wilson Thibodeau, also known as the Swag Strategist and the Leverage Your Brand Coach. One of my favorite songs is Proud Mary by the Turners, as in Ike and Tina Turner. Of course, we know Ike and Tina Turner eventually became Tina Turner. Although I love the song, overall, I really like the very beginning. When Tina is talking and the music is really low and Ike is in the background, he's singing or moaning or something. This presentation I'm doing for you today is kind of like the very beginning of that song. When Tina says, imagine me with Tina Turner wig on, you know, every now and then I think you might like to hear something from us nice and easy. There's just one thing. You see, we never, ever do nothing nice and easy. We always do it nice and rough. But we're going to take the beginning of this song and do it easy. But then we're going to do the finish rough. It's the way we do Proud Mary. Now, in case you didn't already know, I do some impersonations. Not always well, but I do impersonations. So I'm going to start out nice and easy. Then it will get a little rough, but then we'll go back to easy. I won't finish rough. No, I'll finish strong. That's the way I do this talk entitled Birthing Your Other Baby, Full Term Purpose. Again, I'm Rachel Wilson Thibodeau, and Thibodeau is spelled T as in Tom, H as in Henry, I, B as in boy, O, D as in David, EAUX as in X-ray. I know that's a mouthful, so I want to make sure you know how to pronounce and spell my name. I'm the founder and CEO of Swag Strategy Solutions, where we provide business coaching, consulting, professional speaking, training, and development that focuses on strategic branding, as well as how to leverage that brand. SWAG is an acronym that stands for Strategic Women Achieve Growth, because I especially like working with women entrepreneurs, both existing and aspiring, sales professionals, and visionary leaders. We help our clients get so strategic about their branding that the competition becomes irrelevant. We also help them turn their brand assets into financial assets. Since I have a limited amount of time, I will give you what I can now. I do want you to know how you can get more information, more game-changing strategies, more of what I have to offer to help you transform your business, career, and life. One way is to visit our website at www.swagstrategy.com. That's SWAG strategy.com. There you can access some awesome free online training on how to build a seven-figure brand strategically. And yes, I said seven figures. A lot of people talk about six figures, but why stop at six figures? You can also find out more about our content-rich, income-producing programs and services. Now, if you are a Christian or someone who studies the Bible, you may be familiar with a passage from John 16:21. The New International Version says, "A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. How many of you ladies out there have experienced that? Those 2 or 22 hours you spent in labor becomes all worth it once that beautiful new shiny baby arrives. At least typically that's the case. But what about when it does not quite happen that way? What happens when you don't get to experience those labor pains, but a different kind of pain? The pain of losing a child. How do you deal with not having a baby to show for all of that pain? What happens when you find yourself having trouble cutting off the thoughts inside of your head saying, why? Why did this happen? Maybe it's your fault. Maybe something is wrong with you. Maybe you're being punished. How do you deal with questioning God even when you don't want to question God? I'll tell you. In May of last year, 2013, my still somewhat new husband and I were thrilled to be expecting our first child. We'd started the whole family thing a bit late, given I was almost 40 and he was 42, but that's okay. I'm someone who very much believes in timing, especially God's timing. I was working for a major financial services company as an account executive. My clients were small to mid-size businesses, along with a few nonprofits. The book of business I was responsible for at its peak had assets of around $400 million. Over my approximately 18-year career, I've consulted and worked with hundreds of individuals and organizations to help them manage and grow both their brands and their assets. As with previous jobs in corporate America, I started out loving my last job. Initially, it was just the right amount of challenge, excitement, travel, and opportunity for growth. Over time, though, as it tends to do, that changed. Many of you know what I'm talking about. Your boss changes, your boss's boss changes, your team may change, which can sometimes be a good thing, but other times it can be problematic. A new sales VP and 3 different bosses in 4 years, along with major changes to our business model, began to take its toll. By last April, when I found out I was pregnant, I knew my season with this company would soon come to an end. I had a bigger calling to answer. Now, the other thing that made me reach that conclusion, or contributed to me reaching that conclusion, was that I'm a born leader. I come from a born leader. My mother. I've been entrepreneurial for a long time. Throughout my career, at several points, I had a side hustle. Many of you know what I'm talking about. In my late 20s, 3 friends and I formed a partnership to invest in commercial real estate. I've been involved in a couple of network marketing businesses. I did freelance writing for a website that focused on professional women, and I did some speaking. For about a year and a half before I quit my last job, I'd been trying to write a book as well as grow an affiliate and online marketing business. But between an increasingly demanding job, business, and personal travel, my volunteer efforts, getting adjusted to married life, and oh yeah, trying to get knocked up, my part-time business was turning into almost a no-time business. So in late August of 2013, although it was earlier than I'd planned, I did not have a load of cash set aside for my business. My husband had just started a new job, and his benefits would not kick in for another 60 days. I didn't have a concrete business plan. You know, I had ideas, I had notes, I had an outline, but not a concrete business plan. And I was pretty scared. Despite all of that, I made a decision to quit my job. And I didn't just wake up one morning and decide to do that. No, I had been put in a situation that made staying virtually impossible. It was made very clear to me that I was not really appreciated, not supported, or not any real support, and I really didn't want to move forward with this company. Maybe some of you have been in that situation. Now let me backtrack a bit. Remember I told you I found out I was expecting in April of 2013. Well, by the time I left my job in August, I was no longer expecting. Unfortunately, my husband and I suffered a miscarriage. I suffered a miscarriage, and it's really like my husband suffered it. As women, often when we're talking about this, we say, I suffered a miscarriage, but we both endured a miscarriage. We were devastated. Now, women don't really like to talk a lot about miscarriage. We tend to grieve and sometimes suffer privately. We may tell our closest friends and family, although there's no guarantee of that. We often blame ourselves. We ask why me? We go through a lot, but often we hold a lot of it on the inside. Well, I went from sharing my miscarriage with just a few friends and family to sharing it with the world, and that's okay. You see, that's because the loss was a catalyst. It was a catalyst to who and where I am today. It was a catalyst to me walking full on in my purpose, God's purpose for my life. And I've realized it did not happen in vain. Just as none of our adversity, none of our problems, none of our darkest days happen in vain. If you believe that, oh, my friend, I'm here to tell you, you are wrong. Even before I became pregnant, I believed God had spoken to me, that He had something else for me to birth. And it wasn't a big mystery. I didn't know everything, but I knew I had more inside of me. I knew I had a few books, not just one. I knew I had a business, maybe a few businesses, perhaps even a movement inside of me. I knew I was meant to have a major impact on people. Once I became pregnant, I decided I really had to step it up. I had to get serious about preparing and positioning myself to leave my job and work for myself. I know I had to make time to write. I had to create that concrete business plan. I had to begin connecting with key people as well as leverage the existing relationships I already had, so I could begin getting more consulting and speaking gigs outside of my 9 to 5, which, by the way, was not always just 9 to 5. Sometimes it was 9 to 9. Some of you know about that too. Oh, I had lots of great ideas and plans, but I still had that job. The job that was becoming more stressful, more demanding. And while my doctor did not think my miscarriage was caused by stress, I'm sure it didn't help. Stress never helps. So in August, while still mourning our loss, when this situation happened with my job, I was really compelled to call it quits. Also, by that time, that whisper, what initially started out as a whisper from God, it had become a little louder. You all know how that happens. It starts out as a whisper and then gets a little louder from there. We're supposed to listen then. If we don't listen, well then it gets louder and louder, and then it may become a brick through the window, figuratively. God had something else for me to do, and I needed to do that before becoming a mother. I want to make something very clear here. Please do not think that I'm implying that every woman who has had a miscarriage, that happened because God had something else for them to do with their lives. I don't know that. I cannot speak for anyone else but me. Nor am I implying that birthing a physical child, is less important than starting a business or writing a book, although for some people it may be. This is not as much about whatever the thing is that God wants you to do. It's more about obeying God and appreciating His timing. Now, if you're not of faith, then it's about listening to your tuition, your gut. What we sometimes ignore for various reasons, but mostly because sometimes it's not saying what we want it to say. Sometimes it requires us to step out of our comfort zone. It requires us to do something that we've never done before. It may require us to sacrifice something, or all of the above. You see, I had not been obeying the spirit inside of me for some time, surrounding birthing my other baby. There were things I was moved to do, guided to do, to better position myself for August 2013 when I left my job. I was moved to do those things quite a while before that, but did not necessarily do them, or I didn't do them consistently. Thank God for second and third and sometimes 10th chances. I went through the first 6 months or so of my business with one foot on the brake. I'd move forward a little, then slow down. Move forward a little, then back up. I'd move forward a little, then stop. It was not until I attended a business conference in May of this year, actually hosted by a great speaker herself, Danielle A. Jervey, that I took the foot off the brake. Believe it or not, because yes, this was a business conference, it was there that God confirmed without a doubt that He had something else for me to birth. On the surface, it may appear to be a business, but its purpose, it's the ability to connect with and reach and change people. Now, as dynamic as that sounds, and as dynamic as I believe I am, I don't take credit for doing all of that. I just take credit for answering the call. And that's what I'm asking you to do as well. Answer the call. Allow yourself to be a vessel through which God can do mighty work. I'm someone who has said for a long time, I wanted God to use every ounce, every drop of potential inside of me. Every gift, every skill, every blessing, so that when I transition from this physical body, I'll know that nothing was wasted. For me, God wanted me to give myself over to that wholeheartedly. A big part of my birthing is just that. It's using my gifts full on. Perhaps you want to have children. Perhaps you already have children, but you want to have more. Perhaps you have also suffered a miscarriage. I implore you to stop beating yourself up. Stop asking why this happened. I know that can be tough because you want to know, you want a reason. If you need to cry, if you need to scream, if you need to stay in bed some days. Hey, that's understandable. Grieving is normal. But if you want victory in the end, if you want to eventually stop grieving and start rejoicing, start focusing on how what appears to be terrible, and maybe it is terrible, but focus on how that fits into the master plan of your life. Because believe me, it is part of a plan, and there is a reason. Trust and believe that just because you may not know that reason right now or when it happens, it will be revealed to you. And if for some reason it is not revealed to you, trust that there's still a reason. And that reason probably is not just about you. When I shared an abbreviated version of this presentation at that business conference in May, and not because I wanted to, it's because I didn't have peace about it, or it seemed that God was not going to give me any peace about it until I did. And I didn't do this just out of the blue. I don't want you to think this was inappropriate that I was talking about this at a business conference. It was in context in terms of what we were talking about at the time. But I did not know it would have an impact on some of the other ladies there the way it did. Another lady there who had a similar experience years ago, she came up later and said, for years, she also had been questioning God. She had been a little angry years, and now she understood why. That's powerful. If I did not have confirmation before that, I definitely got it. So what have you wanted to birth other than a child that has eluded you? You've become frustrated, impatient, asking why it hasn't happened. Maybe you've started to doubt yourself. Maybe you've adopted a negative, defeated mindset. Maybe you're saying it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And please stop the negative talk, the negative self-talk. And whatever it is, maybe you want to get married, maybe you want to buy a new home, maybe you want to start a business, maybe you want your existing business to grow, maybe you want to lose weight. Whatever it is, take some time to get quiet, turn off the TV, turn off your cell phone, just get quiet with yourself and with spirit, with God, and find out really what is going on. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that you are not fully attending to your own purpose. Sure, there's a number of people who go through life and manage to be somewhat happy, who never even attempt to fulfill their purpose. But is that what you want for your life? Now, if you're okay with mediocre, average, okay, so-so, getting by, same old, ordinary, just enough to pay my bills, what's expected, then okay, you can stop listening to me right now. I won't be upset. I'll be a little disappointed, but I won't be mad. But if you want wonderful, exceptional, extraordinary, abundance, awesome, more than you could ever imagine, then you need to find out what you have to birth. Whatever that thing is that really serves as the foundation of your purpose. We talk about purpose a lot. A lot of people talk about purpose. I'm talking about purpose now. And sometimes it can sound a bit broad. For all of us, our purpose is rooted in something. Typically, that is your core strength, your greatness, whatever you do that no one else does quite like you. It may be incredibly difficult for someone else, but you do it effortlessly. It's what I call your swag factor. Identifying and leveraging your swag factor is critical to birthing your purpose. Your swag factor may be speaking, it may be leadership, it may be blogging or some other form of writing, it may be growing a business, it may be working with children, maybe working with difficult people, it may be a number of things. Whatever it is, it's extremely important. Even if you don't think it is, if you've been taking it for granted, please stop. God wants to and can do more with your swag factor than you ever think is possible. And whether you believe it or not, He can also make it profitable. If you think He multiplied 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, watch what He does. Watch what He can do with your gifts, your unique value, the very thing that He blessed you with. If you have any doubt, look to the great Oprah. Her core strength, her greatness, is essentially speaking and connecting with people. She realized at a young age, and she gave herself over to that completely. She has often said she never imagined or had a plan, any grand plan of where her life would take her. Accepting the call to leverage her greatness, to speak, to connect with people, help people live their best lives, has led to her birthing an empire, certainly a media empire. Her own syndicated talk show for 25 years, TV shows, movies that she's both produced and starred in, her own network, and more importantly, she's birthed a movement and a legacy. And it all started with her talking. It all started with her giving herself over to what came natural to her and what she loved. Ironically, Oprah, as most if not all of us know, never became a mother, at least not to her own children. Clearly, God had something else for her to birth. Now, I trust His plan for her just as I trust His plan for me and for all of you. Obstacles, disappointment, pain that comes into our lives, it never feels good. As a result, there are times we are brought to our knees, figuratively and sometimes literally. That's human. It's also human to ask why, to wonder why. In my ebook, A Rocket for Your Journey, Powerful Affirmations, Quotes, and Questions to Turbo Launch Your Success, I explore affirming questions, and all of them begin with why. However, we spend too much precious time asking why about the bad things in our lives, the adversity. But isn't it interesting? We're quick to ask why about the bad stuff, but rarely ask why about the good things. Do you ask why about the job promotion? Do you ask why about finding Mr. or Mrs. Right and at the right time? Do you ask why when your beautiful child graduates high school or college? Do you ask why when your mother or sister or maybe you beat breast cancer? Most people don't. Do not let your pain keep you from your purpose. Do not let it keep you from God's promise for your life, whether that's a best-selling book, a 6, 7, or 9-figure business, an invention that may change people's lives, or it may not be that grandiose, at least not on the surface. It may be serving on a committee in the PTA or heading up a church ministry. And that may ultimately impact just as, if not more people than a best-selling book. Whatever it is, whatever your swag factor is, whatever your purpose is, attack it with all your might. Give yourself over to it. Get off the fence. Get your foot off the brake. Stop occasionally sabotaging yourself. Stop allowing fear and feeling overwhelmed to keep you stuck. And I know all about that. Stop thinking that you have to completely get over fear. Just learn to minimize your sense of overwhelm, manage it, and manage your fear. I think the whole idea of being fearless is really a myth. I don't really know anyone who is never afraid. You don't necessarily have to be fearless. You just have to keep moving in spite of the fear. Ladies, how many of you had absolutely no fear before you birthed your first child? I don't know any that fit that description. I'm sitting here now and I'm afraid I could have another miscarriage. It happens. But you know, it's worth the risk. Some things are worth the risk. As the verse from John 16:21 says that we mentioned in the beginning. When the baby is born, the anguish is superseded by the joy you feel upon the birth. Once your dream, your vision, your other baby is born, I promise you, it will be worth all the pain. I'm Rachel Wilson Thibodeau of Swag Strategy Solutions, and I'd love the opportunity to share and work with you to help you leverage and maximize your swag factor. I'd also like to help you get more strategic about your branding and move from ordinary, to extraordinary. You can connect with me at www.swagstrategy.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at swagstrategist, on LinkedIn under Rachel W. Thibodeau. If you like videos, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Swag Strategy TV and check out our Facebook page at the Swaganista Guide. And Swaganista is SWAGINISTA Guide, GUIDE. And I'm also on Google Plus under Rachel Wilson Thibodeau. I really want to thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time. I try not to take anyone's time for granted. Time is irreplaceable. It only moves in one direction, so I appreciate it. And I hope you can appreciate that, like Tina Turner on Proud Mary, I did this nice and rough, but we finished easy. I'd even say, and I hope, that we finished empowered. I'll leave you with this. Physical miscarriage often cannot be prevented. So let me say to you ladies, that means it's not your fault. I'll say that again. It is not your fault. But in the words of Bishop T.D. Jakes, there is no need to have a miscarriage of destiny when what is inside you is so much greater than the obstacles around you. Take care and let the birthing begin.